This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
During his speech at the opening ceremony for the United Nations General Assembly meeting, Libyan leader Muammar al-Gaddafi demanded that the United Nations Charter be changed.
The United Nations General Assembly took place in New York with the participation of more than 120 world leaders, with a speech by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. He called for attendees to confront challenges regarding the environment, nuclear weapons, and poverty. Moon also said that this is the time to act multilaterally and in innovative ways. The major speech was given by American President Obama, who was attending the United Nations General Assembly for the first time. Moon also called for confronting challenges facing the world, saying that current efforts are not enough to resolve the challenges facing humanity. He also called for decreasing nuclear weapons and declared that this issue will be given priority in the near future. The meeting began with Libyan leader Muammar al-Gaddafi calling for the UN General Assembly's headquarters to be relocated outside New York. It was Gaddafi's first time participating in the meeting. Gaddafi expressed opposition to expanding membership of the UN Security Council and called for placing it under the authority of the UN General Assembly.
Reforming the United Nations can't be done by increasing the number of seats in the UN Security Council. Increasing the number of seats will only add insult to injury. I do not know how the translator translated this term. It is difficult to translate. Yazid Atin Bala. I would like to help you, but it means adding insult to the injury. That is making what is bad even worse. The UN General Assembly should come up with resolutions for the Security Council. The UN General Assembly is the international parliament. It is the Congress of the world. It is the legislative body of the world, and therefore their resolutions should be binding. This is true democracy. The Security Council must be placed under the authority of the UN General Assembly. It must never abuse its authority, and we refuse to let that happen from now on. You are the legislative authority. You are the legislators of the UN General Assembly. It is written that the General Assembly takes recommendations from the UN Security Council. This is wrong. It should be the other way around. The Security Council should be making decisions based on orders from the General Assembly. These are the world's nations, 190 nations. These are the nations united. The United Nations is not the Security Council in the next room. They are only 10 people. What kind of democracy is this? What kind of security is this? How can we ever be confident about international security if our fate is in the hands of 10 people, and they are dominated by 4 or 5 people, and sometimes even by one country? We are here representing 190 nations, sitting here as if we were sitting in Hyde Park. We're only decor. They are making you into decor. You are only like Hyde Park. The UN Security Council was established in 1945. Until now, it has failed to provide us with security. It only provided us with sanctions and terror. It is only used against us, and therefore we are not obligated to follow the resolutions of the Security Council from this 40th meeting onward.
Gaddafi was introduced as the king of African kings. Even assuming that the UN will not be reformed, Gaddafi called for creating a permanent seat for Africa in the Security Council as compensation for what Africans endured in the past. He also demanded compensation for third world countries because of colonization, as a way to ensure that it will not be repeated. Gaddafi praised the speech of Barack Obama.
We, especially the Africans, are very happy and proud that an African is the President of the United States. It is an historical event. In the past, blacks were not allowed to enter coffee shops or restaurants that whites went to, and they were not even allowed to ride the buses that whites used. The American people voted enthusiastically for Obama, this black Kenyan man, to be the president of the U.S. This is a great thing, and we are proud of it. We believe it could be the beginning of change. He promoted a slogan of change. However, I believe that Obama is one light in the dark. It may stay lit for 4 or 8 years, but then I'm afraid the U.S. will go back to its old policies. Who can guarantee that America will not revert to its old ways after Obama? Can anybody guarantee that? Who can guarantee that? Can even Ban Ki-moon guarantee that? Nobody can guarantee that. We are comfortable now that Obama is in the White House. We do not disagree at all with the speech that Obama gave. He has been completely different from any modern American president we have seen so far.
Gaddafi also criticized the International Court of Justice and the International Atomic Energy Agency, saying the International Court only punishes smaller countries and never goes after major world powers.
Well, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the Iranian president, has said the Palestinian people should not pay the price for the Holocaust in Europe.
سوال اول اینه که با فرض وقوع هولوکاست این اتفاق در کجا واقع شده و چه کسانی این کار را انجام دادن؟ اگر یه اتفاقی در اروپا افتاده و بعضی دولت‌های اروپایی کار خطایی را انجام دادن، چرا باید مردم فلسطین این رو جبران کنن؟ چرا اونها باید آواره بشن؟ چرا اونها باید کشته بشن؟ ما در هر جا کسی کشته بشه مخالفیم. ما با همه جنایاتی که در جنگ دوم جهانی اتفاق افتاد مخالفیم. بیش از 60 میلیون در جنگ دوم کشته شدن. تک تک اونها انسان بودن و برای ما محترمه. فرقی نمیکنه مسیحی باشن، مسلمان باشن، یهودی باشن.
Ahmadinejad made the remarks during an interview in New York. He also spoke of nuclear arms. He said nuclear weapons threaten global security. Ahmadinejad also reiterated that Iran will only pursue talks over its nuclear energy program through the UN nuclear watchdog, the IAEA. Syria is worried about reports on Israel's dumping nuclear and radioactive waste in the Golan Heights. Israel has denied the claims and says its digging activities are meant for security purposes.
Syrian accusations that Israel has been dumping nuclear, radioactive and poisonous waste in the Golan have once again come to the fore. According to Egyptian newspaper Al-Ahram, Syria submitted an annual report titled The Suffering of Syrians in the Golan to a UN commission investigating Israeli human rights abuses, accusing Israel of dumping nuclear waste in the Golan, exposing the population as well as animal and plant life to grave dangers. The article also reported that Israel has attempted to downplay the accusations, saying it is digging anti-tank ditches. Since 2003, Syria has claimed that special units within the Israeli army have been digging tunnels in Jabal al-Sheikh with the intention of dumping nuclear waste from Israel's nuclear reactor in Dimona.
The United Nations has lost its credibility. The UN now sees international problems from one eye. They have double standard because they are fully under the domination and hegemony of the United States of America. This is why when any Arab country or Islamic country present a complaint to that effect related to nuclear armaments, the Security Council does not look at the matter.
The annual report was received by the UN on August 14, but it is yet to respond to the claims. Syria has long requested that the UN investigate Israel's nuclear capacity and declared on a number of occasions that the region should be free from weapons of mass destruction. Nuclear-armed Israel has also refused to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty or allow international bodies, including the UN, to investigate its facilities. According to some estimates, Israel possesses at least 200 nuclear warheads and has the capacity to build at least 100 more. According to Syrian officials, Israel is dumping nuclear waste in Jabal al-Sheikh, also known as Mount Hermon, in order to prevent it from reclaiming the Golan, occupied by Israel since 1967. Syria has demanded that Israel return the Golan as a precondition for peace talks.
Yemeni Deputy Minister of Interior for Security Affairs, Major General Muhammad Abdullah al-Kausi, and Member of Parliament Othman Majali escaped an assassination attempt by Houthi rebels in the province of Sada. Meanwhile, Yemeni military sources have confirmed that 76 Houthi rebels, including 26 leaders, have been killed and 150 others have been wounded in a new wave of clashes. In another development, the Yemeni army said they have cleansed a key stronghold of Houthi rebels in the area of Harf Sufyan. In addition, the army announced full control in the area of Shakra Mountain and Shahwan Valley. Joining us via phone from Sana'a is our correspondent Hamoud Munassar. Hamoud, did anyone confirm these reports issued by the Yemeni army?
Yes, these reports have been confirmed by both the Yemeni military and the Ministry of Interior. The security forces are continuing to pursue the so-called Houthi sleeper cells in the city of Sada. The Yemeni army announced today that 12 Houthi rebels have surrendered to the Yemeni security authorities in Sada. In addition, the Yemeni army carried out a military operation in Harf Sufyan aimed at uprooting Houthi rebels in the Ayyan Valley and surrounding areas. The army confirmed that 12 Houthi rebels have been killed in the offensive. The army started to advance to the area of Kaula, north of Harf Sufyan.
Hamoud, the Yemeni army said in a statement that they have cleansed Shakra Mountain and the Shahwan Valley of Houthi rebels. Can you provide more information about this issue?
After days of confrontations and on the eve of the Eid al-Fitr holiday, the Yemeni army was able to regain full control in the area of the Shakra Mountain and the Shahwan Valley. However, the army has not shown any images to confirm their claim of control over this area. The Yemeni Republican Guards have taken part in the offensive in the mountain of Shakra, which is an area famous for its many caves. The bodies of dozens of Houthi rebels were seen in and around their stone forts. In a contradictory statement, the rebels accused the Yemeni authorities of killing Houthi prisoners of war. The Houthis said they have seized control of the Shakra Mountain several weeks ago. The army started to use more effective strategies on the ground.
Hamoud, the Yemeni army is claiming they are achieving victories and killing dozens of Houthi rebels on a daily basis. Have these reports been confirmed by any independent source?
No, the only two sources reporting on the war are the Yemeni army and the Houthis. They are controlling the flow of information. The area of Harf Sufyan is a rocky mountain range area extending 71 kilometers north from Saada. The area is famous for its many valleys and hills. Harf Sufyan links the Yemeni capital of Sana'a with the province of Saada. The Houthis have maintained heavy presence in this area in order to counter advancing army units and cut off supplies and reinforcements to Saada. The rebels wanted to impede the army's mobility by declaring what they referred to as a long and devastating war. During the past few weeks, the Yemeni army sustained heavy war casualties. Dozens of Yemeni troops were killed, while dozens of others were captured, and several military vehicles were destroyed in the city of Harf Sufyan during the first week of clashes. This has prompted the Yemeni army to send reinforcements to the area. The army deployed an additional 7 brigades in the areas of Harf Sufyan and Saada.
Our Al Arabiya correspondent Hamoud Munassar from Sana'a. Thank you very much.
Al-Qaeda published details of the failed assassination attempt on the Saudi Assistant Minister of the Interior, Prince Mohammed bin Naif, on the internet. Abdullah Hassan Asiri, who is number 85 on the wanted list, attempted to assassinate Prince Mohammed in the prince's house after expressing a willingness of turning himself in.
وأحفادي لا زالوا موجودين.
نحو شهر كامل احتاج إليه تنظيم القاعدة في اليمن.
It took Al-Qaeda in Yemen almost a whole month to release some details of the failed assassination attempt on the Saudi Assistant Minister of Interior, Prince Mohammed bin Nayef. The incident took place in the home of Prince Mohammed bin Nayef in Jeddah City towards the end of the first week of Ramadan. Abdullah Hassan Asiri, whose name was 85th on the wanted list, carried out the assassination attempt. The Saudi Ministry of Interior revealed that the suicide bomber said that he was willing to declare his repentance in the presence of the Assistant Minister. The ministry indicated that the explosion took place during a phone call between the Saudi prince and one of the wanted men in Yemen. The suicide bomber, Asiri, was part of the phone conversation. Al-Qaeda released the record of this 4-minute-long phone call.
Everything is good. This is your commander. What can I tell you? Have faith in God. As the Prophet said, God will respond to those who have faith in Him. Have good faith in God, because having faith in God is the key to a better life and afterlife.
The prince will talk with you now.
Put him on. Peace be upon you.
Peace and God's mercy be upon you.
How are you? I'm your brother and I wish you well.
The same to you. May God prolong your life. How are you?
I'm good. God bless. And God bless your good health. How are you?
Thank God, I'm good.
I am really happy to hear your voice and hear the voice of all our brothers and thank.
The recorded video included statements that were made by the suicide bomber Abdullah Asiri after he was equipped with the explosive devices in Yemen. Al-Qaeda's video included a threat from the wanted Yemeni leader Nasir Louaishi.
Let it be known that something bad will happen to you. Our heroes will build their coffins from your blood. If you think you can save yourselves, then try and do it.
The Saudi Ministry of Interior reiterated after the incident that the doors for repentance are still open to the wanted Al-Qaeda members who wish to turn themselves in.
Ahead of the tripartite talks in New York, U.S. President Barack Obama sounded impatient as he chided Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and PA President Mahmoud Abbas, saying that he was dissatisfied with their stalling the resumption of the peace talks.
Palestinians have strengthened their efforts on security, but they need to do more to stop incitement and to move forward with negotiations. Israelis have facilitated greater freedom of movement for the Palestinians and have discussed important steps to restrain settlement activity. But they need to translate these discussions into real action on this and other issues. And it remains important for the Arab states to take concrete steps to promote peace. Simply put, it is past time to talk about starting negotiations. It is time to move forward. It is time to show the flexibility and common sense and sense of compromise that's necessary to achieve our goals. Permanent status negotiations must begin and begin soon. And more importantly, we must give those negotiations the opportunity to succeed. And so my message to these two leaders is clear. Despite all the obstacles, despite all the history, despite all the mistrust, we have to find a way forward. We have to summon the will to break the deadlock that has trapped generations of Israelis and Palestinians in an endless cycle of conflict and suffering. We cannot continue the same pattern of taking tentative steps forward and then stepping back. Success depends on all sides acting with a sense of urgency. And that is why I've asked Secretary Clinton and Senator Mitchell to carry forward the work that we do here today. Senator Mitchell will meet with the Israeli and Palestinian negotiators next week. I've asked the Prime Minister and the President to continue these intensive discussions by sending their teams back to Washington next week. And I've asked the Secretary of State to report to me on the status of these negotiations in mid-October. All of us know this will not be easy, but we are here today because it is the right thing to do. I look forward to speaking with my colleagues I'm committed to pressing ahead in the weeks and months and years to come, because it is absolutely critical that we get this issue resolved. It's not just critical for the Israelis and the Palestinians, it's critical for the world. It is in the interests of the United States, and we are going to work as hard as necessary to accomplish our goals.
Shortly after the trilateral summit, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave an exclusive interview to Charles Gibson of ABC News, using the opportunity to explain Israeli settlement policy.
I think the issue of settlements is something that belongs to the final negotiations. It can't prejudge the negotiations. It can't be resolved before we even begin to talk about it. The issue of the settlements has to be resolved. It should be resolved at the end of negotiations, not before the negotiations.
But, Mr. Prime Minister, are you saying unequivocally you will not offer any kind of a freeze, limited, full, any kind of a freeze on settlements as a precondition to talks?
There are 250,000 people living in these communities. You know, they need kindergartens. They need schools. They need health clinics. They're living. I'm committed not to build new settlements. I'm committed not to expropriate additional land for existing settlements. But people have to live. You can't freeze life. So there is a way, I think, to relaunch the peace process and not get bogged down with this question, because we've just wasted 6 months on this issue.
A former Israeli Prime Minister, the great Abbas, used to say about the Palestinians, they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. If you take this position on settlements, aren't you missing an opportunity?
Charlie, I set no preconditions on the beginning of negotiations. I said I'm willing to go anywhere, any place to meet any Arab leader. First of all, the Palestinian leaders, to move towards peace. And I think Mahmoud Abbas has a great choice to make. We all do. But he has to decide, is he going to be an Arafat or an Anwar Sadat? If he's an Anwar Sadat, he'll find in me a partner for peace, and we'll make peace.
Mr. Prime Minister, just a couple of questions, if I may, on Iran. Our intelligence services, your intelligence services, struggle with the issue of how close they are to having nuclear weapons and how close they are to delivering them. How close do you think they are?
They're getting closer. There's no question about that.
And what does that mean? The Iran government right now is in turmoil. Does that make them more dangerous or less?
To have the Ayatollah regime acquire nuclear weapons, no matter how weak they are today, tomorrow they'll be a hell of a lot stronger. And that is something that would threaten the peace of the world. It should not be allowed to happen.
You say they are close in your mind. Is there a point where it becomes impossible for Israel to live in the shadow of a nuclear Iran?
Charlie, I'm not going to deal in hypotheticals. Of course, every country reserves the right of self-defense, and Israel is no exception. But as I'm pointing out today, the development of nuclear weapons by Iran would pose an enormous problem to the stability of the Middle East, to the flow of oil from the Middle East, to the security of my country, to the possibility of having terrorists enjoy a nuclear umbrella or receiving actually nuclear weapons from this Iranian regime. There's so many reasons, endless reasons, why this should not be allowed to happen, and it's time the international community acted in unison to make sure that it doesn't happen.
The Union of Arab Doctors organized a dinner event for Gazans who were injured during the Zionist aggression on Gaza. They have been receiving medical treatment in Egyptian hospitals.
Despite injuries and pain, these people never give up hope. Despite their injuries, their determination is a source of pride. The injured Palestinians who were being treated in Egyptian hospitals gathered this evening in Al-Azhar Garden in Cairo for a big dinner event. The event is sponsored by the Union of Arab Doctors.
Today, September 15th of the holy month of Ramadan, we are having dinner with our brothers and sons who were injured in Gaza. They have sacrificed themselves, their bodies and blood to protect the Arab and Islamic nation. The Relief and Emergency Committee is devoting all its resources to the service of our brothers in Palestine and especially in Gaza.
We represent the Relief and Emergency Committee of the Union of Arab Doctors. We hope that we have the same determination as the injured, considering the suffering they were subjected to. Today, we gather at this event with the hope that we will ease their suffering by joining them for dinner during the holy month of Ramadan. May God accept their fasting and heal them.
I was injured during the recent war in October 2008. I have sustained multiple injuries to my body. My nose was injured, but thank God I am healing from my injuries. Now I am preparing myself for an operation that will give me a prosthetic limb.
I was injured on March 1st during the Palestinian Holocaust that took place in Jabalia, in Gaza. I was hit by a missile that was launched by a surveillance plane. I arrived in Egypt on August 4th, 2009, just about a month and a half ago. I came here to be treated for hand injuries and to undergo operations for an artificial limb. I'm receiving medical treatment through an Egyptian company, but I need a long time, perhaps more than 2 months of continuous medical treatment.
I was hit by a missile from a surveillance plane with my brother who was martyred. In the attack, I lost my right leg above the knee. Thank God I received medical treatment in Gaza, and now I'm here to undergo an operation for a prosthetic limb. I've been here for a month and a half, and only about 3 days ago, I had an artificial limb attached to my leg. Now I'm being trained in how to use it.
These injured people have passed the torch to their sons in Gaza, who still have their hands up high thanks to the resistance. Sons will never betray their fathers, as if they are saying, "Be assured we will continue on the path of the resistance."
A bomb fell on me. I was just trying to escape, but I was caught in flames. They sent me to Al-Shifa Hospital and I received intensive care. My heart stopped temporarily and they thought that I was martyred. But by a miracle from God, as they were about to bury me, my heart started beating again. They brought me back to the intensive care unit at the hospital. I spent 2 months and the doctor said that I would not live for more than a week. But thanks to God, I have been living for 8 months.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.